And with that, we come to our next speaker, Libor Peltan, and he will talk about, unsurprisingly, DELEG.
Hello, I'm Libor Peltan. I'm from CZ.NIC, and I'm the developer of the Authoritative server Node.DNS. And I will be talking about DELEG, but not only that. So first of all, we are already talking about DELEG, but let me sum up what it is. It's an upcoming big change to DNS by simply like a new alternative to NS records, delegating some zones. It should finally be signed on the parent zone, which makes it more secure. And among other, it brings the opportunity to signal capabilities of the name server of the child zone, whatever capabilities they are. We are now talking about encrypted transport, but this is not the only possible use case, because DELEGs will be also extensible for the future. And I will be not talking about DELEG in more detail. You can simply look into recordings from last year OARC meetings or anywhere else. But I will be talking about the considerations of authoritative DNS operators that they should have before they actually allow DELEG to appear in their zones. So what should the authoritative operators take care before doing DELEG? I have broken these problematics down into several steps. I will be talking about each of them, and I will be also talking about the mutual relationships between those, like what you need to do first before doing other. So first of all, the support in authoritative DNS implementations. If you are using the mainstream open source authoritative DNS implementations, you probably only have to wait for a year or two until the DELEG support appears there. For example, Byte 9, as I'm aware, has a development branch with DELEG support. Node.DNS has already merged into Git repository, but still waiting for release. Other mainstream implementations are probably somewhere behind, but I have noticed some activity around DELEG in their Gits. But general recommendation, don't stick with the repositories from your distributions, especially those that don't accept frequent updates. Maybe it's better if you operate a big authoritative DNS service to install from repositories from the vendor directly in order to have a current stable version. So besides the implementation in the DNS software, you might also need to trigger some configuration knob that turns on the DELEG awareness of the software, even if it supports the configuration knob can be server-wide. It means it turns on DELEG awareness for the whole authoritative server. It can be per zone, which is better for operators having many zones with different needs. But they can also have no configuration knob at all. The reason is that the DELEG awareness does not actually break anything from the legacy working way of the authoritative server. Next thing you need to know is the DE bit, which is equivalent to the DO bit signaling DNSSEC awareness of the client. So for signaling DNSSEC awareness of the client, for signaling DELEG awareness, there is the new DE bit. There are some tiny differences between the DO and the DE signaling logic, but mostly it is the same. Then also, if you are familiar to DNSSEC, you know that there is something like DS no existence proof, that when DNSSEC aware client asks for delegation and it becomes the delegation and the DS record is not there. So it's insecure delegation. It obtains an NSEC record proving that the DS record does not exist. So that it's DNSSEC, so it's verifiable and signed the information that the DS does not exist. So the same thing is for DELEG. If the client is DELEG aware, but the DELEG is not present at the delegation, it should receive an NSEC or NSEC3 record proving its non-existence. And it could actually be the same NSEC record proving the non-existence of the DS if both do not exist. And another, and perhaps the most tricky thing in DELEG is the ADT bit. The ADT bit is there in order to prevent downgrade attacks. The point is that even if all what I said above is working well, an attacker could instead inject a false answer with just the legacy NS records, which never had to be DNS signed, and the attacker can trick the client to think that there is a legacy authoritative server which does not know DELEG, and there is no DELEG, and therefore make a downgrade. So this ADT bit in the DNS key clearly signals that the authoritative server is DELEG aware, and that the client should either get the DELEG record or its non-existence proof. So the ADT bit can be put into any DNS key record in the zone apex. If you have more, or which is usually the case because you have one DNS key for KSK, one DNS key for ZSK, so you can put the ADT bit into any of them, and once the DNS key record is published, then the ADT bit is there. And there is the twist. In the specification of DELEG, there is written that if you have any DELEG record in the zone, actually, then you must also have the ADT bit there. Technically, this would not be necessary, but it's the security issue, so that the operators don't forget the security part of the DELEG. So they are obliged to already have the ADT bit in the DNS key record before they even put the DELEG in the zone. So from this, it already yields to the correct order in which the changes to the authoritative zone should be made. So first, the operator who wants to do DELEG stuff needs to install compatible software to all the authoritative name servers, including all the public-facing secondaries, because they need to be DELEG aware and able to answer the queries properly. So you need to update all your infrastructure to DELEG supporting software, and you need to turn on eventually existing configuration knobs that make it DELEG aware. Only after you do all of this, you can put the ADT bit into the DNS key record, probably by making a routine key rollover in maybe ZSK rollover in your key set. And only after that, you can finally put DELEGs into your zone. So, but before you do this, you can ask, well, what are the potential negative effects to install the DELEG aware software, turn on DELEG awareness, or put the ADT bit into the DNS key? So it's okay to be careful, but don't worry, the changes are really tiny. So before you have actually the DELEG in your zone, and you just install the new software and turn on DELEG awareness, then without the DE in the client queries, there are no changes at all. And if the client sends the DE bit, the only difference is that the referrer answer is bigger because there is the additional NSEC record proving the DELEG non-existence. And there can be also you could also ask if the existing DNSSEC validators are not confused by the ADT bit in DNS key, which they don't understand what it means. But there was a survey which proved that this does not make any harm. So I welcome you to try DELEG yourself. We as a community have prepared some testing scenarios for you. I prepared the d.xdp.cz domain, which is full of other subdomains, which are delegated various ways, like only with NS or with NS and DS, with DELEG with DS and stuff. Ralph Weber prepared also a similar setup under deleg.rudns.de. And also he prepared a only one which I'm aware, a DELEG aware resolver, which you can query yourself and add any name worth your liking. And those all like available testing tools are nicely tracked down by Paul Hoffman and his document listing all those. So to sum it up, just don't worry to update your servers to DELEG aware software versions. Then go ahead with signaling the ADT bit and be prepared for eventual DELEG enrollment. Thank you.
Hi, Peter Thomason. So you mentioned that one of the deployment steps is to put the ADT bit in the DNS key record set.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned it can be done with any key. It doesn't have to be the KSK, for example.
Yes.
So at DESIC we use CSK, so you only have one key. So that sounds like I can provision a dummy key that has the bit set in order to prevent a KSK rollover.
Yes, you can.
And which algorithm number should I use for that?
This was always like a question if there is a possibility to put a placeholder DNS key record, which actually doesn't do any crypto, but only signals this one bit. I also tried to do this several ways, like putting a really dummy DNS key record, but this was kind of malformed. Or you can simply create a public-only ZSK that does not sign anything. It has the crypto part, but it's not used anywhere, and I think that will work. And you should use the same algorithm as your KSK in order to avoid some algorithm rollover problems or something like that.
Okay, okay. Okay, cool, thank you.
So I'm not sure when we did that, but I just looked into the GitHub repository. So the ADT bit only is used for the kind of like proving the absence of the DELEG in. So a positive answer can be validated without the ADT bit using normal DNSSEC mechanisms. This is something I think we changed from 0.8 in the draft. So it's still better to have the ADT bit, but it's possible to actually deploy DELEG delegations without the ADT bit, but you then, of course, you lose the ability to prove the absence.
Yes, but yeah, you lose the security and you don't follow the protocol in the current specification, but you can still technically do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Libor.